in my journeys, I come across some really cool people. And I want to introduce you to Dr. Tracy Debi. Now, we know that you're a doctor, but we don't know if you're like a doctor, like you go in a phone booth and you go through time, or there's like lots of, or if you're like if you preach in a Black church doctor, or there's lots of different types of doctors, or you write children's books. And so before you tell us what you do, tell us, what do you love, Dr. Debi, Dr. Tracy Debi? I almost got it back.
Dr. Debi, Dr. Tracy Debi,
Yeah.
I'll answer to it all. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here today. So what do I love? What a great question. So what do I love right now? I love my cat. I have a 6-year-old Norwegian who's a calico, so I call her tie-dye girl. I love nature. I'm specifically interested in trees, all kinds. Willow trees are my favorite, and flowers. And my favorite are lilies.
Okay.
That's what I love right now. And life. And life.
These lilies and life. And I love, I don't know. Now I'm like, what do I call Dr. Tracy Debi? Dr. Debi, Dr. Tracy, Tracy? I don't know.
Tell me whatever you want.
Some of us, I feel like are in the place where we're doing what we have to do. And then there's others of us who are doing what we want to do. And I love bringing on the show those of us who are doing what we want to do, serving who we want to serve. And tell us a little bit about that, because that's absolutely you.
Yeah.
What's going on?
What is going on? Well, a lot's going on. So the doctor got in front of my name. I will demystify this for your audience because I am a chiropractor. So I went to chiropractic college in New York, in upstate New York, in a little town called Seneca Falls. Spent almost 5 years there. And so what I'm doing right now is not chiropractic, actually, but it came from that. So my experience through chiropractic is one that is very interesting. It's like I came into the profession because it helped me. Mm-hmm. I had migraines as a preteen, teenager, and I just accepted that as a part of life. And then I got an opportunity to work in a chiropractic office, and I never even knew what a chiropractor was. I'm not going to lie. I had no idea what it was. But as a part of my undergraduate, I got to work in a chiropractic office, and they were like, by the way, you get free care. I was like, cool. That's awesome. What do you guys do? And so they showed me, and I got treatment, and like I never had a migraine that bad again where I had to like take time off school. So I was like, wow, this is so cool. So I got into the profession because I was like, you didn't use any drugs. You just used your hands. They were like, yep. I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. I want that. And the guy that I was working for at the time, he wasn't like the best guy, you know, like in terms of his practices. I was like, wait, I can do this. So I decided to do that, which was cool. I got into the profession for all the right reasons. You know, I was like, hey, I just want to help people like everyone else. And then throughout my schooling at chiropractic college, I had this experience at the Veterans Hospital in Miami, Florida, that kind of completely changed the way I looked at healthcare, because I saw people as not this like physical body. I saw them as more than that. I saw them as emotional people, as people that had greater needs than I ever considered in school, because in school you're in a bit of a bubble. So that really expanded my mind as to like what is going on. And then throughout this whole process, I also had chronic pain that I wasn't dealing with, and I wasn't talking to anybody about it. Because I thought, oh, that's just a part of going to school. I mean, if you think about it, as a chiropractic student, you get adjusted like hundreds of times. And to be honest, you don't need all those adjustments, you know what I mean? But you sign this waiver being like, yes, I won't sue you type thing, right? As a cover thy bum thing. So I got a lot of treatment, so I just assumed it was a part of that, right?
Right.
But there was something else kind of happening that I wasn't paying attention to. So, and at the time I didn't understand it. So I'm going to collapse time here for everybody. But what happened was, once my expanded definition of healthcare was in my head, I realized like I don't have all the skills I need to truly help people the way I wanted to. Donnie and I talked before, and I was telling him, you know, at the Veterans Hospital, there were things I never even imagined people were dealing with. Never, like not knowing, you know, kids you know, having a child, but then having to serve and then coming back and not knowing how to reintegrate into your own family. That is something I never dreamed that I would have to hear from somebody, really, honestly.
So you were there they were coming to see you to be adjusted or whatever it is that, if I go to a chiropractor, that's what it is, like snap,
Yeah.
tackle, pock, put me in place. But they were coming, you know, it was there, but you're dealing with now veterans or people who've been overseas serving in whatever. Now they're coming back and they're meeting children for the first time after 2 years of them being born, or they're these, you're finding these other life surrounding circumstances.
Totally. And it's like, I mean, I didn't know what to do. And then, you know, other things like they don't have an identity without a weapon in their hands, without identifying as a part of active military. Like these are things that I never understood how to approach and deal with. And there wasn't like a class on it. They were
Right.
like, here, go. You're taking over for these two students who were here before you. These are the practical steps for what you have to do. But here you go. So when veterans, this is what I've learned, when veterans are discharged and come back to America, they are sent to the hospital for just to get every checkup done. They see every doctor, everybody's under one roof. Their whole body gets, you know, they get x-rays, MRIs, bone scans, like they get everything, even if they have symptoms or not, like they get all these tests done. So they're like told to check in. If they say I have back pain, then they come to see the chiropractor. So that's how it started. And then I found out there was all these other things. I mean, we even treated SEALs. You know, I had to actually sign an NDA, so I can't talk about anything other than I treated SEALs. And like to hear the stuff that they have to go through, it was like, what's happening here? So I knew that there was this missing link, and it was greater awareness of these, I want to call them emotional needs that we have that I didn't know how to address. So what I did is I understood that my pain was also multifactorial. It wasn't just a physical thing. So it kind of accumulated in me seeking more and more answers. But instead of looking within, I looked externally. I looked without. So I started taking every course under the sun that I could imagine. And I took them all, and they all promised to find the solution or give you the template, you know? I'm sure you know this, right? And none of them did that. None of them did that. But I have every certification under the sun. I am like a trainer, like a functional strength trainer. You know, I've taken all the neurology courses, like I've taken them all. And what ended up happening is I looked within. I really looked within to start talking to my pain. And that's how I started getting answers. And I really connected to my spirituality because I started blaming myself for patients not getting better. You know, I blamed myself, and that only exacerbated the experience I was having and the pain I was going through, which led to chronic depression.
Talk to us about this self-blame thing. I think a lot of us who serve other people, we get into this because we want to help, we want to serve, we want to love, we want to give, and we have a heart for those people. And sometimes, like, we act as though we are the only factor in them getting to this place of wholeness, and that's not the case. Like, can you talk a little bit about that one? I know that we're going to a place, but I think this is valuable here.
Yeah. So self-blame is something I had to actually like work through a lot, because as a chiropractor, people are coming to you. And this was specifically in BC, where I was in British Columbia, Canada, which is a bit different than Ontario, where I live now, because there aren't as many family doctors. So I'm technically a primary care physician. So I really took on that role there. So people would see me and not see their family doctor sometimes because they couldn't get in.
Mm-hmm.
So the self-blame thing was like exacerbated because I knew that the options were very limited for them. So when people had physical pain, you know, like you said, typical chiropractor is a Band-Aid type solution, right? And so I was doing that, and people would come back and their pain would be the same or worse. So immediately, without even questioning, hey, are you doing the things I'm telling you to do? I just started blaming myself. Now, a part of that, it's also like I'm an empath, quote unquote, like I feel people's stuff more.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought helping them meant taking on their stuff. Like I'll be that outlet and that space where you can tell me anything, really, because people feel comfortable telling me stuff, which is okay. But I was taking it on as my own stuff. And then the problem with that is I started to numb how I actually felt. So there's like this multifactorial thing happening.
So I, this isn't everyone, but there are a lot of us, Dr. Debi, that we go down that route of like the way that I'm going to help you and heal you is I'm going to carry you on my back. You become me, I become you. It's like these are the ultimate caring machines, which is a strength, but also like I think you're going into where you're sharing. Like this can also be detrimental, right?
Yeah.
For those of us that process that way. So take us through your story, and then maybe give us a good program for those, for those of us who are like that.
Yeah. So I started taking people's things on as my own, like you said, carrying it on my back, and not just one patient, all of my patients, and I had a fully booked schedule. People liked the fact that I like had a conversation with them and got to know them. It wasn't just cracking their back. I would offer other things like exercise, and I would give them solutions outside of just me cracking their back. Right. So, but I was still taking everyone's things on. And the problem with that is you lose, you lose track of what's yours and what's not yours really quickly. And so that affected me negatively. And I've always had this kind of like tendency towards depression. So it kind of accumulated in this dark night of the soul experience, as I say, where I wanted to not be here on this planet anymore because I thought that, the world would be better off without me. And that experience was powerful for me because I realized like I had a choice all along. So
How did we get there though? Like can you give me a little bit of the build up, because that's like that's a hard shift. take us into that, because like I feel like there may be someone there right now, right, that's listening.
Yeah.
How did you get there, and describe that a little bit for us?
Yeah. So how did I get there? That's a good question. So I think I got there by looking at things the same way over and over. So the thing I remember clearly about that experience was having one perspective that didn't change. The perspective that didn't change was that I was the one to blame. I was the one to blame. And that's something that I realized only now, not then, that was like a childhood thing. Like whenever something went wrong, I blamed myself.
Your fault.
My fault. Yeah, it was my fault. Like I'm sure at some degree someone, like we've all had childhood stuff, right? So I had that in my family and I blame myself for it. That's how I coped with it. I blame myself.
So when something that showed up that appeared to be, whether it was a failure or whatever, the easiest way to do it for you was to process it through it's my fault. Was like, do you feel like that was because you want to control, or like what was the?
I think it was my attempt at control.
Attempt at control,
because if I didn't take control of it in some way, it'd feel like a big snowball coming at me. And so my attempt at control was blaming myself, because then it landed somewhere.
And so that caused this accumulation. It sounds right. Like this. You're not just carrying a little rock. That rock kept getting bigger and bigger
and bigger and bigger.
And
my like literal back was getting like harder and harder to ignore. Like my own back pain, it got worse and worse. Like it literally felt like I was carrying it on my back wherever I went.
For someone, by the way, like it's my fault, I'm to blame. I've heard other versions of this. I'm stupid, or I keep making stupid decisions. What would give me a program that someone who's thinking that, feeling that, maybe talk to that person who's in the place where you were at when you were can you talk us out of that dark place and maybe shed some light, bring some healing to that?
Yeah, I mean, that place isn't fun, and I get it, obviously. I think the thing that, I mean, this is actually really interesting, because I don't think I've gone back here, actually, to be quite honest with you. But in that dark place, there was always this quiet little voice inside of me that I never listened to. And I think a part of me was scared. So the thing I remember the most about that is I tried to exert control by pushing any kind of emotion away from me because I was so scared of feeling anything, because feeling anything felt overwhelming. So my advice to people that are out there would be to start to embrace feeling something. And feeling something doesn't have to be scary. It can actually be liberating. So even if you feel sad, like feel sad. Because I didn't even know that I wasn't even allowing myself to feel sad. I felt a lot of empty. But I was so scared to even allow myself to feel that. And I think when I say attempt to exert control, that was me trying to do that. If I'm not going to feel my feeling, I'll try to control the situation, which is not something I recommend.
So, would you say that there's an element of surrender?
Totally. 100%. I would say that.
And is there a part of being able to recognize whether it's beauty or wholeness in oneself? Like, I guess it's, so you're saying, like, don't be afraid to feel. Trust your, like walk me out of that. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm not afraid to feel. Now what? Crack me in place, Dr. Debi, show me what's next. Because we talk to people. These people exist. We walk around. We put this smile on our face, right? We're zombies inside. We don't think that there is another way. And so I'm just asking you to hit the switch a little bit more on this.
Yeah. And I think this is different for me because I have intricate knowledge of the body. One thing I knew throughout anything is that your body always wants to protect you. That was hammered into my head in school, and that was something I knew for certain. Your body always wants to protect you. So as soon as I let myself feel something, right, I realized that that was actually a signal from my body trying to help me. So when I say surrender and trust, I surrendered to my body leading me into the experience that I needed. Because at that point, I didn't have any other option. It was like, be here or not be here. I felt like I had no choice. Like I felt like I was like in like the darkest of the dark place. Like I tell people, felt like I was in this hole, this dark hole, and I had no way of getting out.
Were there people around you in this place, or were you alone, or?
So I had coworkers, but they had no idea what I was going through. Like, you know, you talked about the like smile and then you're a zombie on the like inside. This whole time I'm treating patients still. They have no idea. That actually made this even more labor intensive for me because I had to put on a face.
Yeah.
And then I'd come home and literally not be able to move on the couch for the entire weekend. And then I'd go back to work and put on this happy face and then come home and like not be able to move. I would literally be like a couch potato.
That's a lot of work, isn't it?
It's a lot of work.
I always tell the story of Ephraim when our kids, I mean, of course, they're homeschooled now and probably like all of America, but at this point, I remember he would come home every day and he was the worst, most rotten, meanest kid in the whole world. He was mean to his brothers and sisters and me and his mom. And it's like, what's wrong with you? Are you grumpy? Like, why are you so grumpy? And then we go to school and all the kids loved him and all the teachers said he was the best and he's this model student. And I realized what was happening is he was, it's that effort of pleasing these people was really added to the weight. But I want to go back to something you said a moment ago, and you were mentioning that your body always wants to protect you. Like there's this knowledge that might not be like that's in words and in that we think of. I always think of it like when my wife was pregnant, right? And she would want certain foods. It was because somehow her body was craving these nutrients. But the picture she would see was like this different food. It was a new, she wanted the food, but her body was like, we need this nutrient. And somehow there was a translation that happened, and that was basically the body protecting itself and being connected to the mind. But you really talk to me about the mind body connection. I know that's a thing for you. And yeah, talk to us about that.
Yeah, so that was a process for me learning. I learned it the body mind way. So there's some people who learn it mind body way. For me, the opening was through the body. So I realized in myself, but also in my practice. So I'll just give you a really easy example. So you can tell if someone's happy or sad based on their posture. Right? So if someone is like coming to you, I mean, I don't know if people can see this, if they're like this,
Wait,
right?
it was like that.
No, but there are literally people who I saw would come into the office like slumped.
Yes.
And you don't have to ask them like, hey, how's it going? I could be like so bubbly and they'd be like, it's going good, and like, obviously it's not going good. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And so this is what I mean about the body. It never lies. One thing I've learned is it never lies. The body never, ever, ever lies, because even though I could ask people a question and they could lie. I mean, I knew about it. I was doing it, right? Patients would be like, hey, how's it going? I'm good. And I go home and like be a zombie. You know what I mean? So I was doing that to myself, and that's sending false information to your body, right? Because I'm saying, hey, I feel good, but I don't feel good. So now my body is like, huh? This is good. So this is the program that you're sending for good. You know what I mean? So that's the first thing that I learned, is like your body responds to you. And so I was like, hey, what's happening here? So I knew this from the office, that people were not telling me the truth. I knew that going in. And so I would invite people to tell me the truth, and sometimes they would, and sometimes they wouldn't. The ones who wouldn't never really got, I'm saying this in quotes, got better, or got results, let's just say, that actually lasted. The ones who told the truth were the ones who actually started to get better. That was the first clue for me. And then I started doing that to myself. Like I said, don't be afraid to feel something. In the beginning, actually, Donnie, what was really helpful for me was labeling how I felt, just giving it a name, because I didn't know in the beginning. I know this sounds so strange, but if anyone's in the place I was at, it won't sound strange to you. Because when you are learning to identify how you feel, it's helpful to label it. Because I was telling myself like lies for such a long time, I literally had to learn, like, okay, this is neutral for me, or this is something I would consider happy, or this is sad, or this is empty, or this is lonely, or this is just hungry. This is actually not sad. I'm not sure if I answered your question. I kind of went off on a tangent.
I want to dig in. I want to dig in some more, and I've got to tell you that it's interesting that what you mentioned about truth. I think the reality is there's a famous Bible verse that says they will know the truth, and the truth shall make them free. And but if I were to go into people that I've worked with, and so in my world, I help people to be more like productive, to make more. It's like productivity and making more money are the two reasons that most people think they're hiring me. The reality is it's other things. But the one thing I can tell you is that over my case studies of all of the people I've ever worked with, there have been a few that don't get results. I have one actually that I'm dealing with right now. And it's the ones who never take the time to actually be truthful. It's the ones who will tell you, they'll deflect and say things are good. So they're not being truthful with themselves, or they're not being truthful with the person that's helping them. And the reality is I just like, when you mention that, it's like one of those things like light bulb. It's like, you can't help anyone unless they're in that, if you're in the place of truth. I feel like we all can move forward. Sometimes we have filters maybe that stop us from actually recognizing it because we think it's bad or whatever. There's maybe shame. There's all kinds of things that can get in the way of that truth. But I know personally that I can't help anyone who's not willing to deal in truth. It's just
Totally.
like it like point blank. And so that's kind of interesting. You lay that one pretty bare. You kind of go through some of the feelings, you know, and this is neutral for me. This is happy. This is empty. This is lonely. And I don't know, like I maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I feel like that, process this one with me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that for whatever reason, we want to be binary about things. And most of the case, we want to say, this is good, this is bad,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so we feel like that, you know, positive mindset, positive thinking, happy, good, like that's good. And so we even have like drugs to make people have a feeling of that and to get them out of these other places. But we think that sad, empty, and lonely, melancholy, like people label those as bad. But I actually think that a lot of deep work is happening in those places if we'll let it. I don't think that are you with me that we can't label these things as good or bad, that they are, and that all of them are beneficial, just like the seasons that we have throughout the year?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think a part of me even telling you this, and I labeled them just so I could identify them, right? But it was from a place of non-judgment.
Right.
You know, I think you have to come from, especially when you're dealing with yourself first. I mean, I'm not going to try to help anyone unless I can help me first, right? In this area, right?
Mm-hmm.
So non-judgment for me was huge. And to your point, I needed to know anger so I could know joy. How do you know joy? Like, how does anyone know joy? How does anyone know anything good unless you have a quote unquote bad? And so in this world, like you said, we are very binary, but I embraced it all. Like even now I call it ebbs and flows. I embrace them both. I love the like ebbs, right? I totally love them because then I really love the flow. You
Right.
know, both of them happen. So it started really for me way back then with just not judging what was coming up for me. You know, what is happening to me? Because like I said, I felt like a baby in a sense. Like I had to relearn what was happening. How was I feeling when someone said something to me? What was happening inside of me? Because
Mm-hmm.
for so long I just numbed that out, you know. And to your point, if I got angry because someone didn't do something I prescribed, what's really happening in me? What does that mean for me? Because if I take that anger and give it back to that patient, I'm not helping them anymore. And that was like my main thing. So this became like top of mind for me. Like I know for some people, you know, it's probably easier to hide this. But once I identified what was happening to me, I could not put on that face anymore. And to be quite honest with you, it's because of the energetic requirement to do that. It was actually hampering my ability to help my patients. I started being one of those chiropractors that just cracked people and was like, okay, bye, because I had no more energy to give to them. I had nothing.
Oh,
Like I didn't have anything to give to them anymore. So
yeah.
this was, again, for me in my life specifically, I can say that this became top of mind focused. I poured my days outside of the like clinic into this because of the effect it was having on multiple areas of my life, not just personally, but professionally.
Yeah. And it I hope that, I mean, I'm listening. I hope that the people are paying attention to the idea that um, in the place where it's give, where we're in the place to where it's almost like show up and play your expected role. You know, you're the funny man, dance funny man, make us laugh, or you're the, you know, you're the smart person, give us some smart things philosophically to do. And so we click into these roles, but when we restrict ourselves to whatever, it consumes energy. And at some point you will be used up and you will have no energy left to give. You've become consumed. You've been a consumable to, I don't know, this weird demanding society. If we plug ourselves into that,
Mm-hmm.
plug ourselves into, take me into the, take me to the Dr. Debi part, because now that we're talking about, you're someone who has seen how the health is connected to to the mind. You know, the body and the mind are. I would love to hear maybe your definition of how the body and mind and the energies of those are connected. And yeah, I don't know, like talk to us
Yeah.
about that. I want to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I learned a lot about the body. Like I've been talking about the body for a while here, but I want to just like skip to the mind for just a second because I did not know that we have two different parts to our mind.
So what
So
is the mind? Are we talking about our brain, or like what do you mean?
yeah. So I actually, and I didn't really get into this, but I actually started working with Bob Proctor a few years ago. And something he says is that we actually think in pictures. So all humans think in pictures. So if you think of your fridge, right, you automatically have a picture of your fridge in your head, right? Everyone does. And I can ask you what side is the handle on, what color is it, and you know it because there's a picture. But when I ask you to picture the mind, there's nothing. There's a big old blank white nothing. There's nothing because no one knows what the mind looks like, right? Nobody knows what I mean, that's why psychologists have jobs, right? Because no one knows what the mind looks like. And everyone thinks brain, but the brain is not your mind any more than my finger is, right? So what's actually interesting, and I'm a nerd, so people should know this about me, is I started looking at the research, and the research took me down to a bunch of PhDs, which basically said, yes, there's two parts to your mind. You have a conscious and a subconscious. I'm sure people know what that is. I don't think I have to define it, but your conscious is your like thinking mind and your subconscious is your feeling mind. Now, what's interesting about that is your subconscious actually affects your entire body. So your mind is everywhere. It's in every part of your body because your subconscious mind is really your emotional center, if I could say it that way. And so Candace Pert, which is a PhD, showed that it's actually in every cell of your body. The cells of your body are actually your subconscious mind.
Mm.
So what I'm really saying, and I'll just say it out for people, is your mind and your body are one. They are one and the same. And that's why this like self-care movement that we're seeing now is so important too.
Are you speaking organically, biologically, or spiritually, or?
Honestly, Donnie, I'm speaking all of the like languages here because the science is catching up to show that that is the case, you know? So even on my own podcast, I had a doctor who literally has evidence showing that your thoughts affect your DNA. So at the ends of your DNA, we have something called telomeres, which basically can tell how old we are.
Mm-hmm.
And the longer your telomeres are, right, the younger you look. The shorter your telomeres, the older you look. So again, we have scientific proof that shows this, right? Every spiritual guru out there, right, will tell you that mindfulness, and now we even know this is for a fact, right? Mindfulness, like any kind of meditation, especially TM or transcendental, that's the one that has the most research, has actually shown to improve your cognitive ability to make decisions. So they would give people like the same test or a very similar type test. And then all they would do is add some mindfulness and people would perform better. People were happier. Like all these things are showing how we're all connected.
Okay. And this is like, so then, therefore, like, so since if you have found this to be, and what are the conclusions? What does this lead you? What direction can we assume from this?
Yeah. So the direction really is that everything that's happening on the inside, right? So the things that we talked about. So for me, my zombie like inside was actually being projected in my outside world. It was a reflection of that. So because I felt like a zombie on the inside and I wasn't happy with what was going on inside and I ignored a lot of things, I blocked things from happening on the outside. So I didn't have a friend circle. right? I spent my time on the couch. I didn't have relationships that were functional. You know, I actually moved like 5,000 kilometers away from my family too, right? So, you know, my profession, yes, I was making money, but just to pay the bills, I didn't have that satisfaction, right? I wasn't eating properly, wasn't taking care of my body. Like it started to affect every aspect of my life to the point where I couldn't ignore it anymore. And I would say the number one thing that I learned is that knowing that my mind is my body, and the number one thing that's affecting that is my emotional stability, that's where I think we need to focus in health. And if you think about healthcare as a broad scope, we've focused really on the physical part.
Mm-hmm.
And we've forgotten, if you want to go with like mind, body, soul, or mind, body, spirit, we focus really, really, like, we know the body part, you know, but that's only one aspect of it. Like something I didn't even really mention to you is I really leaned on my spirituality. And for me, spirituality just means believing in something bigger than me.
Mm-hmm.
Something that brought us all here, that brought me and you here together today, right? That's just what I hold faith in and believe in,
Mm-hmm.
right? And faith being just like a broad concept. I'm not talking about like religion specific.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I started to lean on that. I started to really embrace my emotional side. And as soon as I started doing that, guess what reflected? Things changed in my outside world. I was starting to attract the patients that I could help, that I had the capacity to help, that were ready, like you said, to talk about their truth, you know. And, you know, I actually am so grateful for all of the patients, because if you think about it, it's kind of unexpected in any kind of healthcare office for the doctor to want to just talk to you about different parts of your life. People are used to telling the story of their physical pain.
Mm-hmm.
They're not used to telling the story of the divorce that they're going through, or the fact that they feel like a bad mom because they can't pick up their daughter without any pain, right? They're not used to talking about the breakup with their boyfriend or girlfriend.
Talk to me a little bit about environment. I like, you're talking about like different things that are right. Obviously, we're connected to our outside world as well.
Mm-hmm.
You made a shift from being a chiropractor into being this, you know, and maybe you could explain a little bit more of who you help and how you help now.
Yeah.
But you made that change, I'm assuming, because of not just that you wanted to teach people these great things that you've learned, but also because of answering a call that was on the inside.
Totally.
Bring those satisfaction levels. So do you think, like, so in terms of environment, do you think vocation, or I wouldn't even call it vocation, I really profession, like, is like, how important is that in the mix for people? And we'll just, I mean, we can maybe stay in the North American culture, because I know it's not always the same everywhere, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, how important is it for people to be doing things that are answering certain things that are inside of their mind, body, spirit, their soul, their gifts, their talents, these things that want to come out.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah. And I found my calling through shedding everything. Like when I had that dark night of the soul moment, all the conditioning went away because I wanted to not be here anymore. And when and it just went away for a minute. And in that minute that everything disappeared, I realized I had a choice to be here, like on planet Earth. And in that moment, I also became aware that I had this really large, important purpose, and I hadn't even scratched the surface on really moving in that direction. And that all of my experience, the depression, like everything I had went through my whole life, right? The blaming myself as a kid, all of that was leading me right where I was supposed to be, which was laying on the floor of my apartment. Right by my front door, where I was going to go and leave. And that moment, I'll never forget. I don't think I can ever forget it. That moment, I realized my purpose. Everything I had gone through was so that I could really, really, truly help other people understand. And so that was how I found my calling. I think that answers your first question, but that's how I found my calling. So I knew that everything I was doing was for a reason, but I heard this Buckminster Fuller quote, and he talks about existing reality. And if you don't like your existing reality, if you can't fight it, you just create a new reality, you know? And so I tried in the healthcare system to do things a different way. You know, I had hour-long appointments. I tried. But like you said, if someone's not willing to receive the message, and I found that the environment I was in, which is like a doctor's office, quote unquote, is not the environment to offer people transformations. Because people have this expectation that you're just going to give me a Band-Aid solution, no matter how much I could preach, you know? It's like I'm preaching on people's deaf ears sometimes. And it's not because they don't want it, they just don't expect it there.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I think the first off, being able to create your reality, where most I think most individuals, and whether it comes from how we're raised or how things are structured, I think we feel like we're trapped. And it's interesting that you mentioned that you found purpose when you said I have a choice, when you actually embraced your choice. And maybe the choice wasn't related to control in terms of, I think we all want a math equation where it's like, well, if you do A plus B, then you will get C. And we think that that's the way it works. But the cool thing is I believe that when we actually embrace our purpose and our choice, it's interesting that we go from adding and we go from adding into multiplying, that our speed changes, that time itself warps, that we begin to function in the place of love, where it's almost like there's this untapped, I don't want to say an untapped potential, but an unending supply is available for us to do what we want for the people that we're there to serve. And so I don't know, like I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And I want to know like how, like if like how that is kind of like, talk to us about where you're at right now and what you get to do right now, and how that is like, I don't know if it's play or love. I don't know how you describe that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because in that moment too, where I realized I had a choice, it's so interesting. Like, I don't know what happened and where I went, right? But something happened where I just like collapsed on the ground, and I went somewhere, and it was like this really bright place, and it was so bright, but you didn't need sunglasses. Like, I don't know how to describe it. And in that moment where I realized like I had a choice, I felt this like unconditional love for the person that I knew in my heart I was. Not this conditioning that I had on top of me, not the fake zombie, like for the person that I knew in my heart I was, but could never express. I felt that in my, honest to God, I don't know what to call it, Donnie, so I'm going to call it soul. It was like coming out of me. And I felt so accepted. And I was just like, if this is how I can make one other person feel. And I don't know if people can see me, but it's like, I am, you know, I have brown skin. I'm a first generation Canadian. If I can make some other first generation brown girl feel totally accepted for who she is at that time, that is my purpose. Like, that is the thing that like I know I'm here to do. So to answer your question, it was unconditional love. But like for me, I think people want to be totally accepted for who they are, for who they know under all their layers.
You felt this when you were collapsed. And I believe the moment you're describing is there was a moment where you were going to end your life. Is this?
Yeah,
this
totally.
Is the moment?
Yeah, 100%. And this is not what I thought was going to happen. Obviously. I didn't think that. I didn't think that this was going to happen to me instead. And I have a cat. I've talked about her because you said, who do you love? And to be honest with you, Donnie, she wouldn't let me leave my condo. Now, she's never done this in my whole life. She literally sat by the door and just looked at me. And if you guys have pets and you know the look I'm talking about, where they look into your soul, she looked into my soul.
What would happen if you left your condo?
My plan was to jump off a bridge. And I picked the bridge out, and I knew where I was going to do it, and I knew it was high enough that it would just happen. But, you know, if they found me, then my parents would fly down and take care of my cat. Like, and she had automatic food things because I didn't know how long it was going to take. Like, I planned this.
Yeah.
Like, I planned the outfit. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's the crazy stuff you convince yourself is like normal. Like, you know what I mean? At the time, that was like not a weird thing for me,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And then to have her like literally just like as I collapsed on the ground, because I just was in tears. I was in a pile of tears, if I'm being honest. And it's like only recently that I can't, like, that I'm not breaking down telling you the story, but I was in a pile of tears and she just curled up by my head. Two things she's never done. She's never just sat by the door. Like, if I leave, you know, I just came back, you know, she's just, you know, sleeping in her thing. She doesn't really care, right? But this time she wouldn't let me leave.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah. So that's the unconditional love part I felt. And I realized, like, I think everybody in the world just wants to feel unconditional love for, and just unconditionally accepted for who they are. I really, honest to God, believe that. And when I made the decision that, you know what, this is my purpose and I'm going to pursue it, I drew a line in the proverbial sand saying, like, this is what I'm doing now. Like, this is just it. This is it. And as soon as I made that, I swear, like, energy just moved with me. And like, I talked about feeling like a baby, but I really did, because I remember going up, because I just passed it on the ground. I woke up the like next day and I remember everything looking different, like being like, wow, leaves have veins and that's how they get nutrients. Like, I was so amazed, and there was like sand blowing and I just was so amazed at like the way that like light hit the sand. I like felt like a child. Literally, I was like, something is different. I feel like reborn in a way. So then obviously life was not perfect after that, because I had to go back. I still had back pain. I still had all these things with just a greater awareness of how to deal with them. So I felt like a different person, because like, I feel like the part of me that needed to die, the zombie part, like the real hard zombie part, just died.
Yeah.
Like, that died.
Yeah.
Like, something died for sure.
Yeah.
The zombie died.
And, you know, this is so, and we're going to go a little bit longer than is typical here, but if you're okay with it.
Yeah, sorry. I was like, I didn't really answer your other question.
No, but here's the thing. And I want to massage this a little bit, this area, because it's, what I've found is that the person who is trying to find themselves never does. Like, if you're trying to find your purpose within yourself, I'm not saying that that's not good. There's a part of it that I think is in there. So go to a mountain and find that part. Who are you? What do you like? All of those things. But there's something that's greater that's revealed, and it usually comes through pain. And I believe it's knowing your people. And your people are the people that they probably look like you. They probably have gone through a pain that's similar. And your people are people that you have a message for. They're people that you have a mission for. And being able to find out, we're here to serve others. This isn't like, if we're stuck in a place all alone, I think that can lead to some of those all types of illnesses, right? That plague the body, mind, and spirit, soul, whatever. But being able to look at knowing your people, your mission, and your message is one of those keys to finding, you know, purpose. In you did this in your moment of pain, and you're like, I want to be a bridge. I want to be a guide. There are other people I know who look like me or feel like me, and being able to get them there. But there's this other place where you mentioned, and I think this is all of every single person on this planet. I don't know if it was maybe it was Freud that said that simultaneously man's greatest desire and greatest fear is to be known, right? Because we want to be known for who we are, but then also we're afraid, oh my gosh, if everyone knows who I am, will I be accepted, loved? Will I, and at that moment, there was something, and this has to come from ourselves first, is that you're accepted, you are loved, you are enough. like just being able to embrace. I'm going to say those again because this is for whoever is listening and watching, and this is for me. It's you're accepted, you're loved, and you're enough. In going to that place, there were things that have met you along the way. Like, so what things have added to, like, when you were, and this is not just something that happens just once, like we've got to, like, this is right, there's an unlearning of some things to be able to do that. And as you've been on your journey to now help people in the way that you help them, like have you seen things happen that you were, it's like you took one step towards this destiny or calling, and have you seen it? I've seen, usually we take one step and it's almost like it takes two steps. This thing towards us, or these people around us, like move, like create this extra momentum. Like, what have you seen that's caused, that's, I don't want to say accelerated, but once you connect into that place, you're moving more freely. Like, have you noticed that in your journey?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm making it sound like I found my purpose and then like life is perfect. Like, no, right? No. Yeah, it's really interesting because I think the thing I learned, and I had an unfair advantage in this, is I really started, like I talked about trusting your body, and I have been so rewarded for my intellect. You know, like I study, like I'll study, you know, like I will study. But the thing that was different for me was learning to embrace my intuition, right? That knowingness that I had a purpose here felt like it came from inside of me. And so once I let that voice, and once I identified this voice, I started listening to it, and it started to just like really quietly whisper things that sounded crazy. Like, go to this bookstore, grab this book. And I was like, what? And the first personal development book I ever grabbed was called Fear. And in chapter 2, it's like your inner child. And I was like, what's an inner child? And what happens when we're born? That's the first time we feel fear, when we come out of our mom's, like, whatever. I was like, what is this? And I was like, it's true, right? Like, it's like, what the heck is going on? So I started listening to my intuition, which sounded really, really quiet. And sometimes, because there's a first voice and then there's a second voice that's like, don't do that. That's stupid. And I'm like, but it said to go to the bookstore, didn't it? And if you don't listen, you can miss it. But what's cool, and then why I say I have this unfair advantage, is because it started giving me clues in the office with people. It started being like, you felt this way before this person came in, then this person came in, and there's this air of grief and sadness. Just note that, just write that down. So I would start writing down things that I would feel when the person walked in, and then I would write down everything they said in their words, which is interesting. So one thing I noticed is that people were creating their reality. People were talking about what they didn't want happening, and then it would happen. And then they'd be surprised and be like, can you fix it? And I was like, well, that's interesting. So again, intuition, what's really going on here? So I started to just listen to this voice, and I got louder and louder and louder. That is probably one of but that is not intellect, right? Like, you can't study that anywhere. I just had this external validation.
Outside of this little brain casing here, this is beyond
beyond
here. Yeah.
Totally beyond. So that, I think, would be one of the things that had changed everything for me. But obviously there's a lot of fear, right? Like you said, I'm like, do I reveal my authentic self? Do I show people the like real me? Will they accept me? What will happen? But that's why the mindset work that I did with Bob Proctor, and that was even a different story, how I even ended up there, because how does a chiropractor end up with Bob Proctor, right? So I have to connect some of the dots there. But I wanted to buy a condo in Toronto, just really quickly. I wanted to buy a condo, and I didn't have enough money. So I was like, let me just get a third job.
So, and this is a reality. So just like what you were saying, people create their reality. This is like, there was a reality you wanted.
Yes. Totally. There was a reality that I wanted, and I was like, well, I'm going to make it happen. I'll just get a third job. And it turned out that this person worked with Bob Proctor and was like, I can help you get your condo. Basically gave me a few things to do. which was like visualization and writing. She's basically helping me create the reality that I already had the condo, right? And I did that. 2 days later, have the condo. 2 days later, I'm her client because I was like, what happened?
Okay. Can you tell us like what did she like? What did you like? How, that was really fast. Go back.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take up any more time on your product, but I'll tell you. So what she did was she gave me a few things to do. The first exercise was to get myself out of my current reality, which what I mean by that is to suspend your senses. So I was living at my parents' house. It smelled like their house. It felt like their house, right? Like all of my senses were telling me it was their house.
Mm-hmm.
So she walked me through this exercise where I suspended all my senses just for like 5 minutes. And I created a reality where I had my own condo. So it's really important to get clear on what you want. So I had to write a list of things I wanted in a condo, like very specific, like where in Toronto, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what does the kitchen look like? I was very specific, Donnie, on a double sink. I don't know why. I just love double sinks. So I saw everything I wanted, stainless steel appliances. So I like visualized all those things as if I was coming home to my condo. And the trick with this is you have to feel it. Again, this is going back to the feelings. I had to feel like it was my condo. So that was what she had me do. And then she also had me write that down in detail. Like I think I wrote 3 pages in a journal that I had. And I thought it was going to be hard. I'm like, well, this is really difficult. And then once I put pen to paper, it was like, it was coming out of me in detail. Mm-hmm. Like the lighting fixtures, Donnie, I knew what they looked like. I knew everything. I knew what the throw cushions looked like. I knew what my kitchen table looked like. I knew it all and in detail. And then when I visualized, I saw it. And some of these things I owned and some of these things I didn't own. Mm-hmm. But I was like, okay, these are mine. So I visualized and I felt really good. It felt really good to do that, mm-hmm. right? And even though I opened my eyes and I was in my parents' house, I didn't lose the connection to the feeling that I had, that there's a condo out there that looks just like this waiting for me. Mm-hmm. So no matter what was happening in my quote unquote reality, I still held on to this other reality that I was creating. And then my intuition was like, go to this site and look here. And I was like, okay. So I just did that. And then it was like, hey, did you notice that? Oh, there's a condo listing there. And they had really terrible pictures. Like it wasn't staged. There was a lot of competition for condos in Toronto. And I looked at it and I was like, it kind of looks like something I visualized. So I was like, can I go see it? Turns out I could go see it tomorrow. Cool. So my dad comes with me and I walk in and I look around and I mean, the place was like, there was like they had a dog and they weren't very cleanly and they made wine. It was just like, what? But the bones of what I saw was there. Like to a T. Like the kitchen is the L shape that I saw. You know, they had black appliances, but I had silver ones. The bathroom was in the exact place on the other side of the bedroom. I had a den, which was going to be by the door, which is exactly what I pictured. I knew how I'd put my desk where they had the wine. Like it was like insane. And then as soon as I like looked at the condo, I was like, oh, this is my condo. Like it was this weird confidence that I was like, this is my condo. My family thought I was possessed because I had...
And did you I was going to say, was it normal? Was it just regular? Like
normal, totally normal. And I was like, I had to even ask myself, like in the quiet moments, I was like, am I crazy? Like, why am I so confident this is my condo? Why am I so sure it's mine? But this feeling was like so strong. Like, remember you asked for it? This is it. It was so normal. It was like, okay. So I literally was like super aggressive with this offer. I didn't know this, but I think my agent and my dad had a little conversation being like, we have to make sure she gets this because we don't want her to be heartbroken, you know? But I was like, I knew it was mine. And within 30 minutes, they were like, yeah, it's yours. Nice. And so I was like, again, I knew about the feelings part. I knew that there was something to it, right? Did I know it was going to happen that quickly? No. But I didn't get caught up on a timeline.
So this happened, like we didn't know, my wife and I didn't know about any of these things. So like, and I won't go into the details. This happened a few times without us. No one taught us. I don't even know how we stumbled upon doing any of these things, but we did. And same thing to a T. We were traveling. My wife had me envision I was frustrated. She had me envision, walk through, feel one of the homes that we would that we would be in when we were traveling. And I took her to a place, and in this place we had vehicles that we didn't have at the time. I was very, very specific, and lo and behold, once we started our adventure, this is a very short version, but 4 months into it, we were walking into that house and living in that house. The place we live at now, very similar. We were very specific. So we were agents of creation. And this will be my the last place that I would we'll dig in, and then we'll round out and finish out. But like how do you explain that to the maybe to the you of old, or maybe the intellectual, or to maybe to one of your friends? How do you explain that?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I think it's different. So it's depending on people's level of awareness or their openness to the idea, right? So some people are really attached to their situation, if I'm being honest. A lot of people are attached to their situation, and they don't want to change. So to be quite frank with you, if someone is really attached to what they're doing, I don't go and explain this in this level of detail. Even on my podcast, I don't get into this level of detail sometimes, right? Because I don't know who's listening yet in terms of what they want. So when I explain this to people, when I explain this to the right person, Donnie, they get it. Like you were like, yeah, I've done this before, right? This whole process. So I explain it just the way I did right now. It's like we all have a choice of what we can do. And like, I mean, I go into some more of the like energetics, right? I mean, I didn't even touch on like energy, but once I understood that everything's energy, for me, it's play. Like at the end of the day, this is playing for me. And I don't want to say that lightly, like I'm not taking it seriously. No, I take it seriously. But if you don't believe me, try it. We've given people the like blueprint of how to do it, literally. And don't do it with a house, do it with $5. Like literally this $5 bill here, that's how I did it. Found it on the street in Toronto. Literally, I was just playing. And if you know Toronto, like Toronto's a busy place, right? We got like 7 million people here. And that was just like waiting for me, because it was just like, oh, I'm going to play, I'm going to earn some cash today. Like I was just playing around, whatever. It wasn't attached to it. $5 shows up. So I encourage people. This is how I tell people this. If they're like, I don't know, try it. Try it for yourself. Try it with something small. Try it with ice cream. Try it with something fun. Experiment with it. This is why I tell people, convince yourself, really. Like I'm not here to convince you, right? If it's right or wrong. I'm here to provide you with a tool that I think will be beneficial, and then try it for yourself.
Love it. Love it. We are going to, this has been fun. I don't normally engage people for this long, and thank you for being generous with your time. Like I would love to hear just one final, I don't know, I wouldn't say message, but like you mentioned, the brown girl who maybe isn't, maybe she's in a place of pain that you were in, and maybe this person isn't brown, but I want you to go into the place of like, I want you to speak to that person, the person that you were at the moment where you were in the dark place. And I'm hoping that you can give some light and some love to that person. And then for those that want to connect with you, you provide phenomenal coaching, you provide phenomenal guidance, like wonderful things. And at this point, if someone's heard you, they know if they like you. I want you to make sure that you tell us how they can engage with you in their journey, because we're all on our way. We're all on a journey. We all need someone else's help to get there. And maybe you're that person for them. So talk to the person in the dark place, and then tell us where we can find you.
So I think my number one thing to say to that person is you are not alone. I think the hardest thing for me to accept was that I felt so alone. Like nobody understood what I was going through. And I just wanted someone. I thought about this, like, would it be different if somebody was there, I had to go back and be like, would it have been different? But I knew, again, I just know that was my journey. And so my journey is to be someone to tell you, like, you're not alone. That was the message I felt so strongly then. And I feel it now. I even tell people now, you are not alone. That is the number one thing I want you to know. And when you accept yourself for who you truly are, you will be amazed at what will come from that. Because in that moment that I felt unconditional love, it gave me permission to accept myself for who I was, not just my intellect, not just this, not just that, but like literally for the person, honestly, it felt like that little child in me that had this curious wonder as a kid. Like I loved dirt and trees, and I always found that weird. And my parents were like, you're a tomboy. No, I felt like I went back there and just accepted her, really.
Yeah.
And her is me, So my thing is you are not alone. That's what I want to say. And I know it's hard to be like, I accept me, but even just try saying it. I couldn't even say it. And then I finally said it and it was like liberation, like something I've been waiting to hear my whole life, not from someone else, but literally from me.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice, is really just know that you are not alone. There are people like me. There are people like Donnie. Like we get it. We're here to help you. And there's no reason there is a reason you are listening to this podcast and hearing us today, because I believe that the right people will hear this message.
Mm-hmm.
So I am working with people right now. I have a group program coming out, and I have an individual package that I do if people want more one-on-one attention to dive into like really deep into topics like we did today. And if you want to connect with me on Instagram, it's at dr.Tracy Debi. And my company, which I just launched, has a brand new website, which is called Atelier I'X, which is ATELIERIX.co.
Thank you so much for going deep and bringing the heat with us today. Thanks for being an impactor.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.